You wake up at 2 in the morning, again. You go to the bathroom, come back to bed, take forever to fall back asleep, and by the time you do, it is already 4 and the alarm is going off in less than 2 hours. In the morning you feel heavy. Your body feels like it never rested, and the question that stays with you is, why does this keep happening? Most people who reach 60 with this problem start accepting it as a natural part of the process. It is just age. It is my bladder. This is just how it is now. And so they start drinking less water at night, cutting out tea, rushing to the bathroom right before bed, going through increasingly mechanical routines to solve something that, in truth, is not being addressed at its root. Because the problem, in most cases, is not the bladder. It is the metabolism. It is what you eat in the last few hours of the day, how your insulin behaves while you are trying to sleep, how your kidneys respond to signals you did not even know you were sending. And when you understand that, everything shifts. Not because there is a secret trick, but because the solution stops being drink less water and becomes something far more intelligent, sustainable, and effective. That is what you are going to understand in this video. And I am going to be specific, because vague advice does not solve anything. Before we talk about what to avoid, I need you to understand what changes in the body after 60 that makes nocturia more frequent. Nocturia is the medical term for waking up at night to urinate, and it affects a huge number of older adults, far more than most people are willing to admit. The first mechanism is hormonal. There is a hormone called ADH, antidiuretic hormone, that tells the kidneys to slow down during sleep. In younger people, it is released in greater amounts at night, keeping urine production low during the resting hours. As we get older, that production decreases. The kidneys begin working at a more active pace during the night, and urine builds up faster than it should. Second factor, the bladder loses elasticity. That means that even with a smaller volume of urine, the urgency signal shows up earlier. That is not a failure, it is physiology, but it is something that can be managed with the right habits. And the third factor, the one most people completely overlook, is glucose. When you eat refined carbohydrates or high glycemic foods close to bedtime, the body goes through an insulin spike followed by a crash. That process has a direct effect on the kidneys. The metabolic response to elevated insulin disrupts the kidney's normal overnight filtration rhythm, and it starts producing more urine exactly during the hours when it should be in rest mode. In other words, what you eat before bed does not just affect your waistline. It directly affects how many times you get up to use the bathroom during the night. If this is already making sense to you, go ahead and hit like right now. And if you are not subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe. We publish content like this every week, practical and grounded in how the body actually works after 50. Now let us talk about the mistake almost everyone makes. And when you hear it, you are going to recognize yourself. It is the late night snack. A few crackers, a very ripe, sweet piece of fruit, a glass of juice, sometimes a cup of chocolate milk. It feels light. It feels harmless. It is the kind of thing people do out of habit, out of comfort, because it seems like such a small thing. The problem is what that small thing does on the inside. When you take in simple carbohydrates in the 2 to 3 hours before bed, you set off a metabolic cycle at a moment when the body should already be winding down. Insulin rises. The liver activates glucose processing. The kidneys respond to that metabolic activity by stepping up filtration. And around 2 in the morning, you are wide awake. Not because you drank too much water, not because your bladder is weak, because your metabolism was still in active mode when you got into bed. This is amplified in people with insulin resistance. And here is an important point. Insulin resistance is far more common after 55 than most people realize. And the critical thing is that you can have a completely normal fasting blood sugar and still have a nighttime insulin response that is throwing off your sleep. A basic blood panel will not catch it, but your body feels it. Now let me talk about something that ties all of this together: silent inflammation. Low-grade inflammation is one of the big themes of aging well because it sits behind almost everything people attribute to time passing: unexplained fatigue, sluggish digestion, fragmented sleep, muscle aches, belly fat that will not budge. And it is also connected to nocturia. Here is the mechanism. Systemic inflammation affects the bladder muscle, the detrusor muscle. When it is in a state of chronic inflammation, it becomes more reactive and less tolerant. You start feeling urgency with smaller volumes of urine. The "I need to go" signal fires before it needs to, and it wakes you up. What fuels that inflammation? Excess refined vegetable oils, ultra-processed foods, too much sugar, a sedentary lifestyle, and poor sleep quality. And notice, these factors feed each other. You sleep poorly because you have inflammation. You have more inflammation because you sleep poorly. You eat more sugar when you are exhausted. The cycle closes in and becomes harder and harder to break out of. The good news is that this cycle can also be broken in pieces, and every entry point you fix opens up space for the others to improve as well. Let us get more specific about dinner, because most content stops right here and never moves forward. The ideal dinner for someone with nocturia is not simply light. It needs to be appropriate in glycemic load, have enough protein, and contain minimal sodium. Those three elements together make a real difference. Protein at dinner: eggs, fish, chicken, legumes, helps stabilize blood sugar overnight. It slows gastric emptying and reduces insulin spikes. A meal made almost entirely of simple carbohydrates, white rice, white bread, pasta with a jarred sauce, has the opposite effect. Now, sodium. This is a point almost nobody brings up. Sodium causes the body to hold on to water in the tissues throughout the day. You end up mildly swollen in the legs and feet. Sometimes you barely notice. But when you lie down, that retained fluid redistributes. It moves into central circulation. It reaches the kidneys in a larger volume. And the kidneys respond by producing more urine. That is why people who sit all day, who eat deli meats, heavily salted cheeses, or packaged soups at dinner tend to wake up more often during the night. The solution is not to eliminate salt entirely. It is to reduce sodium intake in the afternoon and early evening, especially from processed foods. There is a very common habit that seems like a good idea, but is directly contributing to the problem. Drinking a lot of water late at night because you forgot to stay hydrated during the day. The problem is not the water. The problem is the compensation happening at the wrong time. When you drink 2 or 3 glasses between 7 and 9 in the evening, trying to catch up on hydration that did not happen throughout the day, you hand the kidneys a volume they are going to process exactly while you are trying to sleep. The solution is simpler than it sounds. Drink most of your water between the time you wake up and around 5 in the afternoon. After that, reduce gradually. It is not about drinking less overall. It is about distributing it so the kidneys are not overloaded during your rest hours. Now I want to show you the most common sequence of mistakes that keeps people awake at night, and you are going to recognize yourself in at least 2 or 3 of them. The first mistake is hydration concentrated in the afternoon. The person spends the day drinking very little, remembers late in the day, and drinks 3 glasses back to back somewhere between 6 and 9 in the evening. The kidneys receive everything at once, right when they should be slowing down. The second mistake is a high sodium dinner. Canned soup, frozen breaded chicken, processed cheese slices, jarred tomato sauce. All delicious, all loaded with enough sodium to retain fluid throughout the afternoon and redistribute it while you are trying to sleep. The third mistake is a simple carbohydrate snack after dinner. A few crackers, a very ripe piece of fruit, a slice of cake. Seems harmless. Creates an insulin spike somewhere between midnight and 2 in the morning. The fourth mistake is inactivity during the day. Sitting for long stretches increases fluid buildup in the extremities. When you lie down, that fluid is redirected toward the kidneys. And the fifth mistake is a disrupted circadian rhythm, going to bed at very different times every day without any consistency. When the sleep-wake cycle is out of alignment, antidiuretic hormone production loses sync with your actual bedtime, and the kidneys do not slow down when they should. Every one of these mistakes has a practical fix. No supplements, no extreme diet, just adjustments in sequence and timing. Let us get to the practical application, because this is where the video needs to turn into action. From 6 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon is your primary hydration window. Drink at least 50 ounces during that period. If you are active or it is a hot day, more, but keep it concentrated there. At dinner, include protein: scrambled eggs, grilled fish, chicken, lentils, chickpeas. Cut back on simple carbohydrates. Choose cooked vegetables and healthy fats like olive oil. Stay away from deli meats, packaged soups, and heavily salted cheeses at that meal. Starting around 6 in the evening, begin gradually reducing your fluid intake. A glass of water or a mild herbal tea before 8 is perfectly fine. After that, just a small sip if you truly need it. After dinner, do not sit still. A light 15 to 20 minute walk is one of the most underrated and effective changes you can make. It helps redistribute fluid that is built up in your legs, supports post-meal blood sugar control, and improves sleep quality. It is simple, it works, and almost nobody does it. If you feel hungry before bed, avoid sugar and simple carbs. A small handful of nuts or a thin slice of low-sodium cheese have minimal glycemic impact and are not going to trigger the cycle that wakes you up at 2 in the morning. And throughout the day, do not sit for more than 90 minutes at a stretch. Get up, walk around, move your legs. This is not coach talk. It is basic physiology for anyone who wants to sleep through the night. An important note: if you have chronic swelling in your legs, high blood pressure, a history of sleep apnea, or diabetes, Nocturia may involve factors that need specific medical attention. The changes mentioned here are complementary. They do not replace clinical evaluation when it is needed. Please talk to your doctor. Let us close this out clearly. Waking up multiple times a night is not inevitable. It is a signal that the overnight metabolism is overloaded, that hydration is poorly distributed, that dinner is triggering responses the body cannot process silently. And those signals respond to change, not to medications, not to expensive supplements, not to extreme diets. They respond to simple adjustments made at the right times. When you drink water, what you eat at night, how you distribute movement throughout the day. That is what works after 60. It is not a completely different life. It is the same life with smarter timing. If this video gave you something you did not have before, hit like. It is not just a gesture. It is what allows this channel to keep producing content like this, without sensationalism, without outrageous promises, without health clickbait. And if you want to keep learning about how the body changes after 60, metabolism, sleep, inflammation, energy, the silent mistakes that speed up decline, or that, when corrected, make you feel genuinely better, subscribe to the channel. New content every single week. See you in the next one.